Hey guys, so today I kind of want to go over something a little bit different. It's my system that I use to put myself in power every single day. Just helps me with clarity and almost collapse time on a daily basis and gives me a lot of balance. You've probably heard terms like having balance in all areas of your life, your family, your fitness, your finances, right? All these different things, maybe it's spirituality. And for me, I just really needed to understand the research and the science behind each thing to truly get it. Because I'm someone that has dealt with and continues to deal with stress and anxiety on a consistent basis. So maybe you can completely relate on that. So I needed to understand all of those things to be able to combat and fight those things. For me, this is where this was all born out of, right? So we have a lot of brain chemicals. Cortisol obviously is known as the stress hormone, stress chemical I should say, and it's what rises up, gives us that shortness of breath. So how do I fight that? How do I put myself in a position of power on a daily basis? And that's where this all came from. So DOSE, D-O-S-E. So you've got your first one, which is dopamine. So dopamine is known as like the reward chemical. So whenever you're going after something, like whether it's a first date, like let's be honest, a guy is going after a first date, he's willing to do all these wonderful things going after that reward. But then the moment you get that reward, dopamine's released, it's awesome, brain chemical, feels good, I accomplished something, I achieved it, but then it goes away really quickly. Kind of like when you work really hard for something, you get a bonus at work. Well, the moment you get that bonus at work, the very next day, you're already on to the next thing, right? So dopamine is something that we've got to be going after consistently and getting it consistently and working towards. Otherwise, it's going to just kind of lose and we're not going to be in balance. Now, our second one is oxytocin. Oxytocin is the love chemical, right? Trust, love, it's all those wonderful things. So after you've already gone out on that first date, you've already ended up enjoying that first date. It's what happens when you start to build trust in that relationship. It's why family is always the number one thing. If you ask anybody, yeah, I do anything for my family. My family comes first. I can totally relate to that, right? My wife, my son Miles, top priority, right? And it's because I've built that trust, that foundation, that relationship, and it's oxytocin that's released. It's released anytime we touch. So anytime you hug, you embrace somebody, that's the chemical that's released in your brain, and it's more of a lasting chemical. It can stay. It's not like dopamine that's this little surge that comes and goes. So we need to have a constant base of oxytocin in our system as well. So that brings me to the third chemical that we need to have in our system every day, and that's serotonin. Serotonin, often when somebody's depressed and suffered with depression, can completely relate on this one, right? It's what balances out your mood. It's kind of known as the mood balancer. So for most people, that's finding a system that helps them create space on a daily basis, putting themselves first actually for once. I know as a business owner, as a father, as a husband, it's all about doing stuff for other people, keeping everybody else going, keeping everybody else happy. And it's taking a little bit of time every day, and we're gonna get into this, but to release a little bit of serotonin in our system so that for sure we're actually putting ourselves first and balancing out our mood on a daily basis so we don't burn out, right? And then of course, one of my favorites, being fitness professional and gym owner, is endorphins, obviously known as the runner's high. So if you've ever done a run, a really hard, intense workout, or anything like that, where you reach like this almost level of euphoria, that's your endorphins that are kicking in. It doesn't last a really long time as well, which is kind of why it's built in, kind of like the reward chemical that dopamine tends to be as well. You get this little surge and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to do this again. And that's what can get people hooked if you're committed to doing it. So what we need is a system that puts all four of these things into place that'll fight that one very powerful one, cortisol. So it's once I started to understand the science and research behind the way the brain chemicals worked that I started to get this, okay? So here's what I want you to do on a daily basis to put yourself back into power so you're not in this anxious scarcity mindset and release all four of these chemicals. First one is dopamine. I want you to read something that pertains to your job, your work, your career that helps you actually advance and improve. Right? So it could be a simple like educational book that your company provides, or it could be on some kind of self-help book, right? Maybe it's something about taking the next step, what practices, what big leap you can actually implement. It's as simple as that, but don't read to absorb a ton of information. I've done this. I've gone through months where I'm like, sweet, I absorbed 10 books, but did I really actually learn anything from it? And the key is to actually apply, right? So all I want you to simply do is pick a book, right, that actually will help. Something that pertains to your career, your life, right? And just read until you find that one point, and it could be like 2 sentences in, that you find beneficial. and find somebody to share it with. It's as simple as that, right? So share it with a colleague, share it with somebody. Right there, you've just released that little bit of dopamine because you've done something, you've worked towards something, and you grabbed that reward of finding it and sharing it, and you're on to the next thing. You've also improved who you are within your working conditions because you have something that can be applied. It really is that simple, right? It's little things every day. You don't need to hit a home run, you just need to step up to bat and get onto base every single time. That's how it all starts adding up. Oxytocin. So how are we going to release that oxytocin, that love, that trust? Beautiful thing is it's called gratitude. How can you show gratitude to those that you love today? It could be as simple as a text message, a simple text message. It could be an embrace, a hug, kiss your wife goodbye, right? It could be actually just making breakfast for your kids. Find one thing that you could do every single day that is really small, but you'd be surprised how far, hey, I really appreciate you and all that you've been doing and all that you're working on. As simple as that. It can go a really, really long way. Because when you are expressing gratitude towards others that you love and appreciate, you're actually slowly starting to ingrain and tell yourself that you appreciate and love yourself. And that's what most of us struggle with the most. Not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing enough, right? But the more that we express and put out good, positive vibes into the universe, I swear it's gonna start coming back. So send one simple message of gratitude every single day to someone that you love. Simple as that. Serotonin. How are we going to do that one? Get that mood balance. For me, it's meditation. I simply take time to stop in the middle of my day and meditate for just a few minutes. You might be thinking, I don't have the time to do that, right? If you just sit in your car right before you going home, right? That last little 2 minutes right in your driveway before you actually walk in the door and just focus on your breathing, that's a form of meditation. I just want you to stop and separate your work life from your family life. And just take that little 2 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. If you can get 20 minutes a day, awesome. But just finding a way to focus on breathing and getting oxygen into your system, right, is gonna calm you down. Because if you think about a panic attack happens when you're real shortness of breath. Everything tightens up, right? But when you're meditating and you're focusing on breathing, or you're doing yoga, or you're doing fitness, and you're forced to get oxygen in your system, all of a sudden everything relaxes and you feel better. And then you can be more present, right? So I simply want you to focus on a couple minutes of deep breathing or meditation every single day. Now that may not be what works for you, right? The other thing that works really well is go for a walk. Seriously, go for a walk. There's something to be said about getting outside of our cubicles, outside of our environments, outside of artificial light, and just being present and looking up at trees, looking up and just being out in the real elements. It makes a huge difference. That's where we were originally intended to be, right? And now we spend so many hours indoors that I think we've lost connection with that. Simply take off your shoes and go stand in the grass and actually feel what Mother Earth is supposed to feel like, okay? So one little simple thing every day. And then endorphins. Do something that releases that energy and gets you sweating. Now it could be for you that simple walk and boom, you just hit 2 at once. That's kind of the nice thing. Right? Or for you, it may be just doing a few mobility drills, just so that your hips feel better, your low back feels better, you're not cramped up at a desk all day. Or it could be as good as going for a run or doing an actual workout. But by releasing those endorphins every day, you're conditioning your brain constantly to actually change those habits in your life, right? And it's when you get a combination, that daily dose of all 4 chemicals, that your life starts to feel better. Your happiness, you're in more control, you feel more power, you feel more balance in your life, and everything really does start to add up. All of a sudden, you're showing yourself, boom, I'm taking care of my body and I appreciate my body and my body's gonna get better. Oh, great, I actually care about what kind of mood I'm in, and when I'm in a better mood, everybody else is in a better mood. I have control over my environment. Oh, sweet, just simply sending a message to my spouse, my kids, the people that I work with, telling them I appreciate them, all of a sudden they're appreciating me, and now I'm starting to appreciate myself. Boom, because of all of that, I got a raise at work. Because I'm simply taking a couple minutes every day to improve, all of a sudden, my value at work has gone up and I got that promotion, I got that raise, I got more clients, whatever the case may be, all right? So just wanted to give you the science behind all of it, because I'm sure you've heard different things. Everybody's got a system on this. But the reality is, if there's not science or research behind it, I'm not going to support it. So I had to do a little digging myself. And this is the system that all of a sudden makes sense. It's that daily dose of all those chemicals we need to to make sure that stress, that anxiety, that scarcity, that fear, that self-doubt that loves to stop us, that loves to get in the way, now we've got a system to fight it. Now we've got a system to use to attack, right? So all I challenge you to do on every single day basis is find a way, a couple minutes on each one, to release each of those chemicals and just increase your daily dose. Peace be the journey. Coach Broseph, I'm out.